Here's a short explanation of the card game 7 Wonders. The game from Repost Productions is for 2 to 7 players ages 10 and up. The average game time is about 30 minutes, with the objective of the game to be the player who scores the most points by the end of 3 rounds. Here's what's in the box. 7 Wonder boards, 3 decks of cards, 1 for each round of the game, 7 Wonder cards, a score pad, coins valued at 3 and 1, and military tokens valued at 5, 3, 1, and -1. To set up, first determine the amount of players, go through the first round of cards, and remove any of the cards that are for a game with more players than you have. For example, if you have 4 players, you will only use the cards that say 4+ or less. All other cards are put to the side and not used for the game. Shuffle the remaining cards and deal 7 cards to each player. If you have done it correctly, you should have dealt all of the cards remaining. Next, take the round 2 cards. Remove any of the additional cards not needed for the game. Shuffle the remaining cards and place them in the center of the playing area. Now we'll set up the third round cards. First, go through the deck and find all of the purple guild cards. Keep those to the side for just a moment. Next, go through the remaining cards and remove all of the cards that are not needed for the game. Now, take the purple guild cards and shuffle them. Deal in a pile the total number of players playing in the game, plus 2 additional cards. Discard the remaining guild cards. They will not be used for the game. Take the remaining guild cards and shuffle them together with the remaining round 3 cards. Once shuffled, place them in the center of the playing area. Distribute 3 coins to each player. Now take the 7 Wonder cards and shuffle them. Place them face down, spread out, so that each player may pick 1 card. When they pick a card, they keep it face down in front of them. They spin the card around like this, however many times they choose. Players now flip over the card to reveal which Wonder board and which side of that board they will be playing. Distribute the appropriate boards to the players, collect the Wonder cards, and place them to the side. They will not be used again. That completes the setup. Before we get into the gameplay, we need to go over some things about the cards and the boards and how they work. First, we'll look at the boards. On a board, there are 2 parts: the goods you produce and the wonder you are able to create. Your civilization always starts out able to produce 1 good, but that can be increased during the game. Each turn, you are able to use this good once to create different structures using the cards. You can also have your neighbors buy goods from you for goods that they need in order to accomplish tasks. The bottom section is your wonder build. It will be 2 to 4 sections depending on which wonder you are assigned. You can choose to build your wonder during the game when you are able. You will start with the left and then work your way across. The cost of each stage is listed here, and the results of accomplishing the task are listed here. For example, here in Giza, each stage adds points to your final score at the end of the game. However, here in Alexandria, completing this stage will allow you to produce 1 of these goods per turn. There are lots of different abilities depending on which wonder you are building. You can refer to this cheat sheet on the back of the instructions to tell you what each of the symbols mean. Now let's take a look at the cards. The cards have different colors depending on what type of card they are. Brown are goods producers. Play these to increase the amount of goods your civilization produces during a turn. There is brick, ore, stone, and wood. Gray cards produce crafts like paper, glass, and textile. Red cards are military cards. These increase the size of your army for battle, which we'll go into in just a bit. Green cards are science cards. There are 3 different kinds. Depending on which you collect and how many, they will score points at the end of the game. We will go over this during the scoring section. Yellow cards are for markets and trading. They can provide a variety of things from receiving money to additional points at the end of the game and better trade agreements with your neighbors. blue cards are cultural landmarks and provide points at the end of the game. And the purple cards are guild cards, which have a few different ways they can benefit you by scoring points off of things your neighbors have built. On a card, there is the name of the card. You can only build one of a particular name. For example, if you have already built an altar, you cannot build a second altar. In the top left of the card is the cost of building this item. If there is nothing there, then it is free. If there is money, then you must pay that amount of coin before you can play the card. Or it could cost you a certain number of goods. Let's say I want to build this science workshop. It costs 1 glass. If I produce at least 1 glass per turn, then I can build this item. If I don't produce glass, but one of my neighbors on my left or right do, I can pay them for the use of their glass. It costs 2 points per good that you are using. To do this, you play your card and announce to your neighbor that I am using your glass, and you pay them the 2 coins. Even if your neighbor is also using glass on that turn, it is okay. So long as they are producing at least 1, you can pay for it. But let's say you need 2 glass and you have none. Your neighbor only produces 1 glass per turn. You could not buy 2 glass from him to accomplish this task. However, if one neighbor produces 1 glass per turn and your other neighbor produces 1 glass per turn, you can pay them both to accomplish the task. Buying goods can only be done with your neighbors on your left and right. In the top center of the card is where the card indicates what you will get when you play that card, be it goods, science, or other items. Say for example, on this card, you would receive 5 coins when you play this card to your civilization. Or this card, which would allow you to buy these types of goods from your neighbor on your left at a reduced rate at 1 coin per good. If there is a good producer that has multiple goods like this, it means that you can produce 1 of those 2 goods per turn. The choice is up to you, or to the player who is buying goods from you. The last part of the cards are these areas, which are called scrolls. If they are on the bottom right, they tell you that an item is available in the next round. If you played this card, for example, in the next round, you would be able to play the forum card. You would be able to do so for free without paying for the necessary goods. If the scroll is in the top left, it indicates what card was played in the previous round that may entitle you to play that card for free. Alright, so now we understand some of the basics of what's in front of us. Let's get into the gameplay. Each player starts out with 7 cards. They take a look at their cards in their hand. They need to choose one of these cards to play into their civilization. In order to determine if they can play that card, they will need to check if they have the right amount of goods or coin, or be able to purchase goods from one of their neighbors. Once they decide which card they wish to play, they lay it face down in front of them. The other cards not selected are also placed face down next to the player on their left. When all of the players have made their choice and placed their cards down, you say, "Ready, set, flip," and everyone flips over the card in which they played. They place it where it belongs in their civilization, and pay the necessary amounts to either the bank or to their neighbors if they're using their goods. If you are placing a good or craft producer, you should tuck them under your board like this, so that you'll have a running list of items that you produce each turn. I normally recommend placing military cards over here on the left, and any other cards like science, culture, or marketplace above the board like this. Once this is complete, players pick up the cards on their right, and the process repeats itself. Choose one card, place it face down, pass the other cards to your left. You keep doing this until you are down to your last 2 cards. When players have just 2 cards to choose from, they pick the one they wish to play and discard the final card down in the center of the playing area. This ends the round, and now it's time to see how players did with their military. Starting with one player and working their way around, see how one army compares to another. If a player has more army than the player on the right, they receive 1 military token. and the player on the right that they defeated would get -1. Now, go to the left and do the same thing, and go all the way around the table, until all battles have been determined. If two players have the same amount of army, no military tokens are awarded to either player. Keep in mind that you are only concerned with the military with players who are your neighbors. Once all of the military tokens have been handed out, it's time to start the second round. Take the round 2 cards and pass out 7 cards to each player. Now the play continues in the same way, except this time you pass the cards to your right. When the last cards are played in the second round, you do the military assessment again, only this time the winners will get 3 points per victory, and it is still just -1 for the losses. Once complete, you do the same thing for the third round, only this time again you are passing the cards to the left. At the end of the third round, military victories get 5 points, while defeats get -1. After this, it's time to do the scoring and see who is the winner. Before we do that though, there is just a couple more options to run through on a player's turn. Let's say a player, on their turn, wishes to build one section of their wonder. They choose a card and lay it face down. You will want to choose a card that is either no good or a card that you don't want other players to get. When it's time to flip over the cards, instead of flipping over, you announce that you are building a stage of your wonder, and you take that face-down card and tuck it under the board like this. This will indicate that that section of your wonder is complete. If there are any awards that go along with that stage, you will now be able to collect. Here's another option. Say you're running out of money, or you just don't have cards that you can play. You can place one card in front of you. When it's time to flip, instead of flipping, you discard the card to the center of the play area face down. This allows you to collect 3 coins from the bank. Now we get to the scoring. On the score sheet, you will see on the left there is all of the categories in which you can score points. Across the top is where everyone's name goes. Where the red box is, you count up your total military tokens. Next to the coin, you get 1 point for every 3 coins in your possession at the end of the game. By the pyramid, you will total any completed section of your wonder that includes points. Say for example, here in Alexandria, all 3 are completed, so this player would collect 10 points. By the blue section, you total the amount of points for each of the cultural cards played in your civilization. For the yellow section, look at your cards and see if any of them include points and how you should score them. Say for example you have this card in your civilization. You would collect 2 points for every gray card that you have played. The purple cards have to do with what your neighbors have done. For example, on this card, you would earn 1 point for every green card, that's the science cards, played by your neighbor on your left and right. Again, if you are confused about what the different symbols mean, you can refer to the cheat sheet at the end of the instruction manual, which will break it down for you. Finally, there is the science cards. If you have a complete set of science cards, one of each type, that is worth 7 points. Now, look at the individual symbols. If you have 1, then it's worth 1 point. If you have 2 of the same symbol, then it is worth 2 times 2. And if you have 3 of the same, it is worth 3 times 3, and so on. So in this example, I have 1 complete set, 3 sets of bricks, and 2 of the cogs. I would get 7 points for the set, 9 points for the bricks, 4 points for the cogs, and 1 point for the compass, for a total of 21 points. Now you add all of the totals together, and the player with the highest score is the winner. This game is a highly awarded game, and although it seems confusing at first, once you play a hand or two, you'll get used to what the different symbols mean, and you will see why this game has been decorated as one of the best games out there. So, now you know the basics. Let's play.